Linens and Hutch, a family-owned company who specialize in soft and cozy, high-quality, on-trend colors and patterns that never go out of style. Everything for your bed products at the best possible price. Linens and Hutch is able to do this by designing and working directly with expert manufacturers to cut out the middleman and pass the savings on to their customers, providing affordable luxury. I must say, my down alternative comforter from Linens and Hutch, along with my bed sheet sets, matches up to actual sheets and down comforters at the higher prices. 90 GSM microfiber, hypoallergenic, which is great for those with sensitive skin, obviously. Snuggling up in a toasty, soft bed is what I like and look forward to after a long day. Linens and Hutch provide fast and free shipping. They are so confident that you will love their bedding products that they offer a 100-day trial period. Yes, a 100-day trial period with money back guarantee. They know that you will be so satisfied that they are offering listeners 70% off in addition to the free shipping site-wide by just going to their website at https://linensandhutch.com/sex and using the code GSMC6 and remember, it's for the softest sheets ever.
Welcome to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, a show that examines all aspects of sexuality, from physical to emotional to spiritual. Join our hosts as they discuss age-old questions, common misconceptions, and the latest topics surrounding sex. They'll tackle topics about sexuality from the complicated to the hilarious and everything in between. GSMC Sex Podcast is your show for all of your questions about sex, even some you might not have thought of yet.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Hello, all of you out there. Hope you're enjoying this lovely day and thinking about sex, of course, while you're at it. It's got to be one of the first things on your list when you wake up in the morning, because it's so fun to think about as well. So, happy thinking. Now, today's session, today's show, we're going to talk about, all things sex, basically. Things that you should know. Things that you were never told about that do happen, like even a sex bucket list and having that done as well, or at least working down your list, because it is always fun. You should know what you want sexually and basically how to get it, or at least teach somebody. Who knows? They might teach you something new as well. Always fun, I'm assured. Let's get this sex show started. Now, what things we definitely know, everyone should know with regards to sex. Both women and men. Now, we really would like to be very healthy and in shape in our lower regions. So, obviously, Kegels is good for women because it does strengthen the muscles in the pelvic floor, but believe it or not, also men can benefit from them. Obviously, if you say Kegels, the first thing you go to is a woman. And, obviously it's where, it's a process by which you squeeze your pelvic floor muscles. And these are the ones that help where we can, which most men will say we can do without even thinking, is to cut our pee in half time, if need be, midstream. Not like you guys. Women can do this a lot better. But it does, it's very good for that bladder control and, stronger orgasms. Very, very useful. But men, believe it or not, should be also doing this. There was actually a study done with men who suffer from premature ejaculation. And it was funny because all of the men, except for 5, in this study, did the pelvic floor, exercises, the Kegels, and it actually improved and worked on, alleviating premature ejaculation. Because what it did is, how they did it was the exercise for a man is you squeeze your perineal muscles, which is that one between your genitals and your anus, and continually working on those muscles helped to control premature ejaculation because you are strengthening muscles, your sexual arousal, your things that help your, get a hard on and make that penis stand erect. Yes, we do need the blood flow down there, and maintaining that's what gives you that erection. But, improving those muscles, just like women do, actually strengthens and helps control premature ejaculation. So get out there and do them, men. Very, very important to know. I know a lot of people do smoke, not asking what or saying what, because the choices have become quite open lately, and at least in some of the states. But smokers have weaker erections. Now, these are studies that have been done, that even the occasional smoker, non-smoking men and women, actually had good genital response. But if you smoked, because what the study was is they took non-smokers and people who actually smoked occasionally, shall I say, and it led to reduced genital response, believe it or not. There was another study that was done that male smokers who quit the habit had bigger, firmer erections. So, smoking does hinder, and we don't want to hinder men, do we? We want that strong, upright erection. Come on. You're pulling a captain. Another thing you that's really interesting is that, believe it or not, when your doctor says they're testing for STDs, they're probably not testing for all the STDs. They're only testing for particular ones. So we leave the doctor's office thinking that, oh, I get tested for this and I get tested for that, and I know. When in reality, you're actually walking out of the doctor's office. And yeah, you got tested for maybe one or two, but you haven't got tested for all of them. So you need to tell them right up in front, test me for everything. Or they're just going to test for the ones that are probably the most popular to come to the office, and then they treat. Because other than that, you're not getting fully tested for STDs. Believe it or not. A lot of the ones that you don't get tested for is herpes, HPV, or syphilis, believe it or not. So remember, those are part of that. Right now, I know with the HIV and all of that, that's probably like the first thing you go in for, and make sure you don't have that or the gonorrhea or probably chlamydia, which is probably the other one. But those are ones that they're probably actually treating more. So you'll get tested for those, and AIDS is in there too. So if you want to be tested for everything, you need to say, I want to be, test me for all. Because like I said, the big ones are the chlamydia, the gonorrhea. Syphilis is in there, but you still have to ask for it. HIV, herpes, trichomoniasis. I have no idea what that is. But it is a STD. Because it's, I've never even heard of it. I'm sure a lot of people haven't heard of that one either. So you tend to when they're not testing you for it. And if they're going to ask you about your sexual history and tell you they're going to test you, tell them you want everything. Because they're not going to test you. They're going to just test you for the big ones. Nothing you should know. Everybody should know about sex, which is related to sex or has anything to do with sex, is it's funny. Sex just doesn't feel as good as when you're squashed. Suckawashed. However you say that. Squashed, like as in drunk. I've never actually seen that spelled out, but if you're squashed and you are freaking drunk, you know what that is. It has, obviously if you get drunk, getting an erection is going to be very difficult to begin with, and some women actually can't even get wet. So it's not a really, really good thing. It actually reduces sexual function and responsiveness. There are those, it does not go for those of you out there that do get sexually turned on when you drink. It might be something psychological as well, because alcohol actually basically suppresses your inhibitions. So you're just letting loose, and this is probably you have things in your mind which is suppressing it when you are not drinking it. So if you're drinking and that is actually suppressing those feelings, all the feelings that you're not feeling are going to come to the forefront, obviously. But for the most part, it actually does, it is an erection killer, let me tell you. And most people can't, men and women, can't perform under those conditions. Obviously, we all know that sex is amazing for your health. It is one of the best exercises out there, so do it a lot. I don't think I need to tell you anything about that, because it does help with lowering your blood pressure and stress. It actually helps with migraine headaches. So, and it does give your immune system a boost, which is very, very good. So if you are doing it, do it more. Have more and more sex because it's fun and it's good for you. It actually, in continuing on with this subject, it burns about 3 to 4 calories per minute, believe it or not. It's probably the most intensive, rigorous exercises that you do. So you lose about, on average, 4.2 to 3.1 calories per minute during sex. So that's actually really, really good. And there have been studies done where they take people who do regular sex as opposed to those who had sex and seen where it ranged. And this is what happened. So, very interesting. Obviously, things we should know, which we probably already know what this one is. Orgasms do funny things to your brain. Yeah. Obviously, our endorphins are going off the whacker, and we are really buzzing. However, obviously, there's a lot of research out there that looked at which areas of the brain are involved and which type of stimulation, like clitoral, genital, nipple. And we will talk about the nipple orgasm a little in there because it's one of those bucket list type things you should do, if not already do, and don't call it that because you just think it's foreplay and they're just playing with your nipple to get you excited for regular penetration. It is actually a nipple orgasm without sex. So we'll discuss that. They do find that in this research that the same areas of the brain light up in response to both nipple and genital stimulation. This is for both men and women. So please do play around with our little friends. They are there for a reason. And generally, probably the most sensitive part on your body from time to time. So actually, most people they're sensitive for. Another thing you should know, which you probably already know as well, is that everyone fakes orgasms. Come on. If you think it's just the woman that does it, and we're just doing it, by the way, to make you feel good, so you don't get insulted by the fact that you did not get us off. I'm just letting you know that. Men do that too. And one survey found that 30% of men have faked an orgasm. So, same thing as well. They want you to think. But us women are a little bit smarter, man. We can tell better than you not telling us for the most part. Unless, of course, you're getting someone who's very inexperienced and doesn't know what it is to begin with. But there's a whole thing on that, which we'll probably talk about at a later date, because it is interesting. Obviously, both genders do it, male and female. It's not a hidden secret amongst women. Men, on the other hand, yeah, it is. It's an insult to your ego and to your penis ego. So, on that note, we're going to take our first break of the show. So please do get a drink, a snack, come back, get relaxed in your favorite little chair or portion of the couch or wherever you are. If you are in your bed, hey, there you go. You're already comfortable and ready to move on. And I will meet you back here for more Sex Talk with Andra.
Still on the search of that one true love? On the limbo in this crazy world of dating, marriage, relationships? Well, listen to the Golden State Media Concepts Relationship Podcast, your one-stop podcast for everything about relationships.
you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back from our brief interlude. Hope you're comfortable because we're going to continue on with some sex things you should know. Everyone should know. And we had left off that everyone fakes an orgasm. A little easier for a woman than a man, but everybody does it. And I was discussing, some studies that were done, just to give you a few statistics. It's probably needs to be updated, but what the heck? It's that in any given sex act, when people don't have an orgasm, which is 6% of the men who didn't have an orgasm and 19% of the women who didn't have one fake orgasm. So those are very small odds for people who didn't have a fake orgasm. So obviously on the opposite end of that, pretty darn high. And which goes right into the next fact that everyone should know about sex, is that obviously that some people do fake orgasm for actually kind of sweet reasons. And that's why they do it. Because they really it's to protect who their partner, basically, their feelings. It's it's a way in which to attempt to increase their own arousal. And it's really like an orgasm self-fulfilling prophecy in there. So remember, they are done, and sometimes they're done even with people you have been with for a very long time. Someone will fake it just not to hurt your feelings because they love you. And new ones, it really depends on the people. If you're going into that sexual act with high expectations, obviously it would be your first sexual encounter, and you're actually thinking it up way too high. So it may be a little difficult. Remember, don't let that actually sway you. If you really like this person and you're still interested, obviously talk about it next time around. It'll be that much better because you'll be that more used to each other and you've talked it out, So, but they usually do it. Your partner usually does it for the nicest reasons. So, another thing that everyone should know about sex. But a lot of people fake orgasm because of insecurities. We're still on the faking orgasm topic, as you can see. Or to get this, some people do just to get sex over with. So, those are more for the women and why they fake it, for the insecurity or them feeling abnormal, or they just wanted to get it over with because you were enjoying it and they weren't, and they wanted to get out of there. All depends on what your sexual, what is that moment and what you're in there for. So, going up and moving right along, and on the same topic of orgasms, now fake ones, by the way. But it is totally normal not to have an orgasm every time. And just being able to accept that. Not every time you're going to have an orgasm. And that is actually normal. You're not abnormal. Everybody has this great expectation where, like, oh my God, I'm having sex, I have to orgasm. That doesn't always happen, believe it or not. It's not realistic. It's just something that is in our brains. And that's how we actually think. So, really take a step back, and if your partner gets off and has their orgasm, let them. And if you're, be okay with that, because it does happen. You're not going to orgasm every time. Switching things up, and communicating openly with your partner generally ups your chances of having an orgasm, believe it or not. Because you got to look at it this way. If you're sitting there and you're open with each other, you have an increased comfort level. It is enjoyable. You love being with that person. So that is always, it ups your chances right there that you're already getting sexually aroused just sitting there and talking. And you probably don't even really have to talk about sex. You could be talking about something else, but you're sitting there having this conversation with your partner and talking, and it gives you that comfort level and allows you to be much more like, okay, this person can touch me. This person, we're going to have sex. I'll do this with them. And then, there's that, if you have sex the same way all the time, like in that same position, obviously you're going to get to a point where you're going to be like, this is boring, and it's monotonous. It's just become melancholy, and there's no variety. So, combining a variety of sex acts and opening up your repertoire, like oral, anal, some sex play with toys, anything you think of, basically. A little bit of BDSM in there, a little kink, but don't go too far. Obviously, that is its own level of consent, educational, and communication, all wrapped up in one. So remember that. Just relax. Sex is to be enjoyed. If your partner's just focusing on your clitoral stimulation, obviously you're going to be just sitting there. Because if that's all they're messing with, there are so many other areas on your body that they can touch. Like I said, nipples are quite the little, little devious boogers in there. So, do talk about it openly. If you didn't get an orgasm, say something. Or make it a playful thing. Where next time it's like, okay, let's see what's going to be done. I can do, let's try something different. Using lube will help you have an orgasm. This is actually pretty true. Doesn't matter what the gender, but it is true. And a study had found that more than 2/3 of American men and nearly as many women have used lube. No kidding. I don't think that one is like a not no. And that almost half of the people, these men and women, who reported lube said that it helps them with orgasms. There's something to it. I mean, like I said, there are so many different, in another show, whatever, and even I'm going to say it now, there are so many different lubes out there that supposedly do so many things. Oh my goodness. Of course, lube is going to help you have an orgasm. If you don't, bring it back. Because if you went in there and you picked one that said, oh my God, it's a warming sensation, it's got that little titillating sensation, you didn't get it, and you wasted your money. There's a lot of research out there that also shows that moderate exercise boosts sexual arousal, which we did talk about that, especially in women. It also boosts libido in women who are taking antidepressants. Believe it or not. So, there's a lot out there. Remember that. And do use your lube. Ha ha ha. Another good sexual thing everybody should know is some people can actually have orgasms from exercise alone. No kidding. It is a sensation. And these are actually given a name. They're called core orgasms. Coregasms, actually. Coregasms. And when it's usually brought on with ab exercises when you're working on that stomach, because you're crunching down on those walls, and from bottom and top, and you're, tightening up your core there, works. Now, there was a non-genital orgasm study that was done, but 10% of men and women reported that they experienced arousal all the way up to the point of orgasm while exercising. You got to think about it. You're working those muscles. You're working all your muscles. Obviously, you're going to start working on your genitals, your perineal. And remember, us women sit on ours. Men's is from the anus to the penis in that little small spot. For women, because we're inside as opposed to outside, it's a little bit more for us. So we, even doing sit-ups and yoga, are going to set us off. So remember that, because you're working on those core muscles. And there's, in one study, the average penis size, and this was asked of men, and they reported their erections and how they got them. They actually said they received oral before measuring actually reported bigger penises. And this is after doing exercises in your abdominals. Well, actually, this is under another fact. So I missed one. Okay, so yell at me. Oral sex can make a penis get bigger. And this is probably why guys like it, because it's a total turn on for them. So, going from exercise to oral. So, obviously, they would do oral, and in this study, they would measure just regularly when they got hard, and then have their partner do oral on them, and then measure again. And they found that they were bigger. Men, because they're on the outside, are extremely sensitive. So, in that look and watching and having your partner down there and that feeling, it's because, there's all this stimulation going on there, and of course it's going to be bigger. So give it a little boost. For the women, if you have a vagina and your eventual goal is penetration during sex, you should do lots of other sex things first, like just to prep yourself. Manual stimulation, oral, anal play. It really makes the orgasm that much more easier for a woman. And the reason for this is because it can make things more comfortable for you if that is your goal for sex. If that's not your goal for sex, obviously, it could be a penis, a finger, a toy, it could be anything. But if this is where it's going to go, obviously, getting you up to that point works wonders. Now, because women have our own, they have come with their own lubrication for the most part. Yes, you should use it, but we come along with it. And they call it vaginal tenting, which is when the vagina actually gets bigger to make sex more comfortable. And this is how we work. So, very, very good on that. Obviously, oral sex works. Continuing on the same note, pretty much everyone, and this goes for all kinds of couples, secretly wants that foreplay. We all want that foreplay to last longer than it does, because obviously that foreplay is what gets us to that, oh my God, I can't take it anymore feeling. and you just want to get that orgasm done. So find ways to make that foreplay last longer, which makes it much, much better. But I'm going to stop on that note, and we'll come back to this topic and finish it up after the break. So, replenish your drink, replenish your snack, come back, get relaxed again in your comfortable position. And I will meet you back here for more Sex Talk with Andra.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. Hey! The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Now, I am back. I hope you are too. As we continue on with our subject of things everybody should know about sex. If you don't already know it, come on. We were on the topic of where, everybody wants the foreplay to last longer. And just to finish up on that, the study was done, and it was done but this one was particularly done on 152 heterosexual couples. Both men and women in the study stated, and this is that foreplay, and with foreplay they are meaning any kind of sex act that happens before penis and vagina sex, penetration. Kids' way of saying it. What do you want from me? Would ideally last around 18 to 19 minutes. This is where the woman comes in and gets her 2 cents, of course. They actually said that realistically lasts about 11 minutes, and men would say that it lasts 13. So, with that, try and make that foreplay or out of play last as long as possible. If you have an orgasm without penetration, that only makes penetration and orgasm that much more better and exciting. So remember that foreplay is a good thing, and it doesn't always go to penetration. Now, we all know the next thing. Mainly women, but lots of people, mainly women, screw up their birth control. Duh. Even if they're trying so hard to do it right. It is something we are putting in our bodies, or your men is using a rubber. It is something you've got your mindset on this. Oh my God, I don't want kids right now. I don't want to get her pregnant, or I don't want to become pregnant. Your mind is so into that it is going to be, you're going to stumble. As simple as that. If you're using condoms plus birth control, and, meaning the pill, the IUD, all those things that are out there that you can get, that's really good. But, and it just means really you are taking a lot of precautions. But a study showed that 12% of people did all of this last time they had sex. But unfortunately, only 59% of them did it correctly. So we do fumble because you're in the heat of the moment. You are just so excited. The rest of the people they talked to, they either took off their condom too early in the men's section, and this was even before they started having sex. So, remember, a lot of things, getting pregnant. Either way, I know some people have gotten pregnant with the condom on. Probably had a small hole in it. You didn't even know, or he filled it up so much that it oozed out the sides. I don't know. I'm just saying. But STDs are transmitted via any sex-to-sex contact. So you can actually do that with and without a condom, believe it or not. It's using that condom makes it that much better that you're not going to. Gives you that added protection. There are some people who do double up on condoms. Because, I've heard of people say that, oh my God, we were doing it so hard that the condom broke. Good thing I had another one on, because when that one broke, but I don't know where the other one went. That is not a good thing. You need to know where the broken one went. But it is, they're going to stumble. Their minds are in, let me get in there. Let me do what I got to do. They're like, okay, and you stop and say, where's the rubber? You're like, you're cutting in their sex time over there. So it is fumblesome. Another thing on this same subject is that most people stop using condoms without talking about the STDs and all of that first. Don't do that. Talk about it, especially if it's a new relationship. If you've been married or you're in a relationship for a really long time and you never had any issues till recently, I think the two of you need to discuss this, because somebody is not being honest. So remember that. And this is a really thing to think about. If you've discussed this in the beginning ahead of time, you've both gotten checked, everything's good, there you go. But a lot of people, after about 2 months, 3 months of having sex with a new person and you're in this relationship, they usually get rid of the condom because they feel comfortable. So remember that. You know, some STDs are really completely symptomless and you don't even know you have them. So just stay with it, wear it until you get tested or you're again or whatever. But if you've already done all this, you're tested and you know and you can prove it, hey, you're all set. There you go. Now, talking after sex is a great idea. Yes, it is. Instead of having sex, unless it's in a mutual agreement, you just get up, it's no strings attached or whatever the case may be, get up and leave. Well, you have decided on that. But sitting there and talking with that person you just had sex with is really good. You might get that, where you had sex after drinking and all of a sudden you're oversharing, you might want to kick back a little. Like I said, alcohol dumps the inhibitions, let me tell you. So this is how it goes. Engage in that pillow talk. The little itty bitty, that post-orgasm talk, everything. Just sit there, slowly caressing your partner's arms or skin or whatever with your finger. It's a way of, it's helping you. It's got a lot of benefits. It allows you to open up a little bit more. It's got a lot to do with that oxytocin and that warm and fuzzy feeling you get when you're bonding. So remember that. And it is that hormone that is released when you climax, after you have an orgasm. So you're coming down. You just went from, oh my God, get me there, went all the way up, had that orgasm, and you're coming down. Your body is still, in that decline. So just sit there and talk a little bit. Believe it or not, that men particularly, having lots of orgasms a month actually can lower the risk of prostate cancer. So is sex so good and one of the best exercises out there? It's actually good for preventing prostate cancer. Have some sex. Keep doing it. Have fun. It is fun. That's what it's there for. And if you have that good relationship and that good sexual thing going, stick with it. It has more benefits than not benefits. So, always good to look at and to think about when you're doing it. Here, there is the next thing you should always know. And believe it or not, you really can't see this. I can see it, but you can. It's, it's funny how they do this. They actually showed a heterosexual couple has sex inside of an MRI, believe it or not, and inside an MRI machine, and they actually took a picture, and it's too funny because they show that how the insides of the woman are getting pushed around everywhere. Well, no kidding. You got this little bald-headed one-eyed creature, like their lovely penis, whatever you want to call him, just a banging and a whacking in there. And what do you think was going to happen? Not nothing. There's a reason why they say you're like banging my brain. Because they're in there banging away. So think about that when you are up in there and everything else. Because, yes, they did do it in an MRI just to see what would happen. And yes, it did show that the insides of women were all over the place. And they were getting banged around and everything. But it's a good banging around. It's a very pleasurable banging around. So just remember thinking about this. And continuing on with our subject, and now putting in the foreplay aspect of it. Obviously, foreplay is wicked important. There are times when you just want to get in there, wham bam, thank you, and the excitement of just getting it done. But for the most part, you ask everybody, it will be that foreplay, the kissing, the feeling, the playing with the genitals, stimulation of them, everything. It's that foreplay that does it. And obviously, it's foreplay is a way of triggering, which it does, and this is what it does. It triggers physiological and physical responses that make sexual activity enjoyable and even possible. Believe it or not. Physiologically, foreplay feels good, obviously. But obviously there's a lot more to it. Engaging in foreplay helps build emotional intimacy. And it can make you and your partner feel more connected in and out of the bedroom. Absolutely, because what are we talking about here? Come on, you're going to remember that. The way you were touching each other, the way you were kissing each other, all of that stuff that comes into it. It lowers your inhibitions because now your body is like, hello, finish me, I want an orgasm. Foreplay actually helps with relieving the stress, the stress, and actually builds the libido if you are done. Obviously, kissing always good, so keep it up. It gives you a form of euphoria, which is always nice. Now, physically with foreplay, we all know that. It gets your juices flowing, increases your sexual arousal. I don't think I need to tell you anything about that. So remember that. But there are some sexual arousals that causes a number of physical responses in your body. And let's give it to you. Obviously, it increases your heart rate, pulse, and blood pressure. It dilates your blood vessels, especially ones in your genitals. Obviously, the more blood flow to the genitals, which causes the labia, the clitoris, and the penis to swell, which is very good for that erection and for us to get our own lubrication going. It also swells a woman's breasts and erects the nipples, but that also works on a guy with the nipples. So, obviously, lubricating the vagina is more enjoyable and pleasurable during sex. So let's go into this. Obviously, foreplay is different for everyone. It doesn't have to lead to intercourse. You can have an orgasm right there with foreplay. You don't need to go any further than that. And on that note, we are going to take the last break in the show. So completely up to you if you want to replenish your drink and replenish your snack. But do remain relaxed. Continue on with your masturbation or whatever it is you are thinking. Dirty thoughts and all. And I will meet you back here for more sex talk with Andra.
Are you tired of the same old news? Are you sick of the seemingly endless political spin and negativity? The GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast is a weekly news podcast covering all the top positive and uplifting news stories. We cover stories that will inspire, uplift, and remind you of the good in the world. Tune into the Golden State Media Concepts America Still Beautiful podcast to get all the great and positive news stories of today. Download the GSMC America Still Beautiful podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type GSMC in the search bar.
Thank you for tuning into the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Andra, where the topic about sex is from the point of view of an older woman. Welcome back to the final portion in our show today, or my show today, shall we say. Where our topic is about things you need to know. Everybody should know about sex. We are combining in the foreplay aspect of this, of course, because foreplay is very, very important. And continuing on in such a topic, obviously, foreplay can be the main event. It doesn't even have to go to sex. That could, foreplay is its own sexual arousal, its own sexual pleasure. And you may just only need that to reach that orgasm, because you don't need, especially if you got a vagina, although it does feel good, I'm sure. But I think women get more pleasure with the foreplay and all of that stuff, which gets a woman off into an orgasm because you are tantalizing her whole body. Men, obviously, they are penis focused, but there are those men out there nowadays who do have a slightly female side, which is good because that brings out feelings, and that's always a positive. And always remember that whatever you're doing in foreplay or in sex, do have consent and communicate about it, because with foreplay, that foreplay involves trying different things. Sex toys, BDSM, all kinds of kinky things out there, or just little things. So do remember that both of you do want it and that you have discussed it and all that good stuff. With foreplay and sex, obviously, you can start long before things are heating up in the room. Or wherever you are having sex, that little romp in the sack, it is there for you to begin, pause, continue, pause, continue, until the point where you can't handle it no more and it becomes sex all the more. Do try and find different ways to prolong foreplay, because it gets you even more hotter. And there's even times that I'm sure everybody out there has done it. You're in the middle of foreplay and the two of you are just really at it, never goes fully to sex. You're right there on the verge of orgasm or whatever, and one is get up as a tease and just walks away and leaves you. You're like sitting there with that thought in your process. Do you do it yourself, or you wait and see if they come back, or wait till the next time and let them finish? It's a build up, because foreplay can be played with that. There are ways you can get around this with foreplay and playing that where you're not even in or near that person or in the same room with them. Leaving notes, little creativity in there goes a long way. Obviously, sexting. Real easy, throw one down and you're separated, you just can't do anything. For dinner and drinks, play a little footsie under the table. They do now have, especially if you've been longtime partners or partners all new and whatever, they have the new things you just wear in your underwears and your partner can control. You could be at dinner messing with them with a vibrator and everything. So remember that. A lot of role playing in there, stick it in there, because this is a way to make that foreplay last. And having that role play, like if you're playing those strangers and you're meeting each other, that excitement of knowing does it to you. You don't even have to explain it. It just does it for you. And then when it gets to that kiss, go in there and kiss like you mean it. Don't even play around. Get in there and play some serious tonsil hockey, because that's what it is. Use your tongue and your hands. There's a whole bunch of stuff. Use them together, but make sure when you kiss, you're doing it as you mean it. And turn around and play around and say this is the pre-game time. And obviously the end game, hopefully if you haven't changed your mind, is the naked and getting in there and having sex and penetration. Another thing, tell them that you want to initiate. Depends on which side. Remember one time the woman wants to initiate. Maybe sometimes the man wants to initiate. Maybe it's a dual action thing. Who knows? But do tell. Obviously, candles are always in the mix. And music always helps. Try with dancing. Then slowly moving your partner up against the wall. Come on. You know how it is. Put on a striptease for each other. May it be the woman who does it for the man or the same. And likewise, let's vice versa. Always a good striptease always works. It also shows an expression of no fear. So that's good. That means you're comfortable. Obviously, put out some erotic things, or as they call it, the an erotic spread. Those could be some goodies you're going to feed to your partner, like those lovely chocolate-covered strawberries, some cherries with cream, obviously chocolates. Or some people love honey. Honey is another. Do that, but do make out like you're in high school. If you're in the moment, it's time for more where you're moving it on to outer course. Obviously, foreplay is the kissing, the feeling, all of that. Outer course is severe stimulation, finger-wise, and everything else. So, keeping it up. Give a little bit of a massage as your outer play. Massages are always good and they're always sensual and generally bring you to orgasm with no problem if done correctly. Hitting all those lovely little pressure points. Hitting those erogenous zones, because that's what it is, while you're in there giving your partner a massage. Add a little nibbles in there, here and there. Always works. Licking, kissing, nibble doesn't make a difference. And then there's the old-time favorite of dry humping. It makes you feel like a little kid inside, because it's like a teenager again. But it gives you that sweet anticipation, where the two bodies are rubbing up against each other. And it's, in various states of undress, where you are still basically in your clothes and you're you want to burst out of your pants. And for men, your erection's probably doing that and getting really uncomfortable after a while. Women can rub on a leg or something and get off. You guys, a little bit more. Lies, very, very good. Sexy talk, always good. Or verbalize where you want or what you want your partner to do. Always use, or please use, sex toys. You can get a giant, huge dildo and in the shape of a penis, so now you got double the pleasure. Vibrators always work. There are finger vibrators, nipple vibrators. Take it wherever you want it. Using the hot soapy shower. Obviously, with all the warm water going over your body, it is just opening you up for more of a relaxed and sensual feeling. Play sensory play. It's going beyond that kissing and the dry hump. It's more of taking different textures. If you're going to blindfold your partner, blindfold them. If they're going to keep their eyes closed, and putting the different texture and putting in different temperatures, textures, and caressing their body with it. There are different things that you can do, and there are things out there that you can buy as well. So don't think that they are not there. They are. With with sex being so openly as it is nowadays, obviously it just opens the door for all of these sexual manufacturers let's put this, manufacturers of sexual toys and props and everything else to come up with new things to work with. If you want to take things further, obviously, let's get right in there and do some more things. There comes down to the oral sex, still not penetration. Oral sex. Obviously, you are pleasuring them oral. Make it hot. Do not neglect the lesser known. Always, please, on a woman, if you're down there, please stimulate the clitoral hood. That, which is, if you know what it is, and most men do, is that little flap of skin that is over the top of the clitoris. Also, the frenulum, which is on the male, which is that little wrinkle of skin on the underside of the penis. And that's where the penis, the head of the penis, and the shaft meet. So please play with it. Very sensitive areas. Always keep it safe, and when being safe, we do talk about, condoms and birth control and all this good stuff. And as I've always said, there are so many different and new things out there, lubrication-wise and everything. We are not leaving out the condom because now they have flavored condoms and delta dams, which is really good for oral sex in the woman. Apparently they taste yummy. I don't know. That is completely up to the person who is doing it. So remember that. Then you go and you get to the penetration. You don't have to be there, but you can get there using your fingers, using toys, sex toys, strap-ons, or the combination with the penis and a strap-on. There are so many things made for him and there's so many things made for her. It is a sexual smorgasbord. But do make it hot. Obviously, first position that comes up, it makes it hot. People that everybody knows is the doggy style because it allows them to access that G-spot a hell of a lot easier and deeper. Keeping it safe, obviously with the lube. And, there are warming lubes out there which you can do, which even can turn you both on. So get those. Then, obviously, anal penetration has become quite popular nowadays. There's a lot of anal play in there that you can do before penetration. And it's like the butt plugs. You can do a penis or fingers. Obviously, make sure that you do lube because it makes it that much more easier for you and the person receiving it. Again, make it hot. Always doggy style comes in, or just pick what you feel would be good. You're always going to include the clitoris, the penis, the perineum, prostrate. Those are all the places that you reach in doggy style. And it helps you get closer to an anal orgasm because you're right there. So, as always, after, keep it safe. Get up after talking and everything. Please do go to the bathroom. Please wash up. It makes it better and much more safer. If your partner doesn't want foreplay or they're not interested in it, stay on a positive note. Start doing a couple of things like kissing on the neck or whatever so that you can get into that. You may be craving it, they may not. They may be doing it on purpose, not craving it. So remember that as well. So do, show and tell how you feel and ask them what they want from you. And you tell them what you want from them, which is really important as well. all of these things helps you get wetter and hotter for sex. It helps with the orgasm and a stronger orgasms. Not everyone is aroused at the same time, so do pace yourself so that you get up to the same pace with each other. For the most part, most people can have that first orgasm and then go back for the second, and that's more of a workup that you can go into. So remember that as well. It doesn't always have to end there. All of this does make you two of you feel closer, and it's really increases your awareness of your pleasure zones on your body. So with that, I am at the end of my show. No more breaks. And I would like to thank you for tuning in to the GSMC Sex Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. Do remember to practice safe sex, if not for your partner, for yourself, and vice versa. Also, if you are going to try something new, please always educate, communicate, and consent. I would also like to ask that you do subscribe to the show and write a positive review. It helps not only me, but GSMC Podcast Network. Also, please seek us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are there. Please leave some feedback or what you would like to hear discussed on the show. Always good to hear from the fans. And on that note, I will say thank you again and have an awesome night.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast, part of the GSMC Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcasts on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, or anywhere you find podcasts. Just type in GSMC to find all of our shows from the GSMC Podcast Network. From sex and relationships to health and wellness, life and happiness, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's episode of the Golden State Media Concepts Sex Podcast.